Thank you everyone for joining us for our next edition of the 49er Industry Chat. We're going to pause as we welcome everyone into the chat today. We thank you for being here today. Hi, my name is Noemi Guevara. I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement here at California State University, Long Beach. We thank you for joining us today for this edition of our 49er Industry Chat. Before we start, just a reminder, this session is being recorded and it will live on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. Also, we encourage you to use our Q&A box located above or below to submit any questions for our guest speaker today. And now it's my honor to introduce our moderator for the chat, Vince Calles. Vince earned his degree in philosophy and graduated in 2013. Since graduating, he has remained engaged with the campus, giving of his time as a volunteer and as a former board member. Vince, thank you so much for moderating the chat today. And now I turn it over to you.
Thanks, Noemi. I'm excited for today with our guest speaker. Let me tell you a little bit more about this gentleman. His name is Jacob Pacheco. He's a content creator, entrepreneur, model, speaker, professional surfer, and also adapts to life with cerebral palsy. As a model and professional surfer, Jacob works with major brands such as Zappos, UGG, Nike, Tommy Hilfiger, and Adidas. Jacob has presented to various audiences all over the world, recently made a TEDx appearance as well. While earning his master's degree in kinesiology here at the beach, Jacob worked as a clinic coach with the LA Galaxy. He's also supported notable organizations such as Adaptive Frida Foundation, Waves for All Foundation, Angel City Sports, the Disabled Resources Center, the California Department of Rehabilitation. So Jacobs, he's faced incredible adversity throughout his life, and he's going to share with you just some of those things that he's gone through, but he's made it his purpose to make a world a better place for others. And so today we're going to go over and talk about those things. So help me welcome Jacob Pacheco.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for the hype. I appreciate that. Go Beach. And I'm so grateful for everybody's time today. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you find something great from this. I'm super excited to chat with my good buddy, Vince. And thank you to the beach for bringing me on today. Very grateful.
So much to cover. I mean, it's a mouthful, but it's amazing that, I mean, not only does the university recognize your talents, but all these other big companies and these organizations. So let's just start off with a little bit of your background and then kind of work our way into that aspect. So where are you from? You know, what you talked about the cerebral palsy. How does that play into everything?
Yeah, so I was born in California. I'm a Cali boy through and through. Grew up in Northern California, went to undergrad in Central California, and went for my master's in Southern California. So I picked the best part of California, which is Southern. We all know this on the chat. And I stayed here ever since. But it was a great time. It was a great experience. I've learned a lot about, you know, my own journey, my own self along the way. I was born with a disability called cerebral palsy. To put it in very general terms, it's brain damage at birth. So if you draw two sets of points, point A and point B, then you draw another set, point A and point B, draw a straight line across, that represents a normal human brain that is capable of not having problems with speech, mobility, motor development. Basically, you can function through life without having any thinking processes or things of that nature. Second set of points, you draw a wavy line, and that represents a brain with cerebral palsy. And those waves represent inefficiencies in the brain and the cerebral cortex. So sometimes we have bad balance, not great mobility, and our speech can be affected, and our fingers, our hands can be affected. So it's a daily process to make it through the day, and it can be a challenge for sure. But I always believe that you take what you can from things and you learn, and you go about your day and you try to apply the lessons you've learned to your own life, and then you try to spread that to others. And it provides like an act of selfless service. And I heard that you got a degree in philosophy. Now I'm like super stoked about this because I've been reading a lot of self-help books and spiritual guides. So I mean, I feel like We're just
Oh, man.
connected here, man. We're about to go.
I know, man.
do it.
We're gonna take this thing and just blow it up. I already know.
I love it. I love it. Let's
Here's
do
some
it.
things that I'm noticing, right? I mean, just right off the bat. Okay, so you're talking about the disability, but just based on your character, the way you are, I can tell that you like competition. You like a challenge. Because if you have something like this where you have to work on every single day and you're really involved in athletics, right? Where in athletics, we're talking about the height of the body and what it could do with strength and power and endurance. And you have someone that's supposedly, quote unquote, the atmosphere, the culture says you can't do something. You're the opposite. So what's going on with that?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that I've transitioned from wanting the competition to finding more gratitude and fulfillment in the process. So something that I read recently, it stated in one sentence, like, you have an obligation to take care of your body because your body is your temple. And that really kind of hit home with me. So I've been on this continuous journey over the last few months of learning a bit more about myself. And so I think that that's how sports, exercise, and kind of reaching that next level of improvement really kind of translates. I used to be really competitive, going after, first place. If you ain't first, you're last. Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights. Okay. But I think that needs to change a little bit to where if you give your best every single day in anything you do and have a little bit of detachment from expectations and outcomes, I mean, you've reached a different level of gratitude and fulfillment. So that's where I'm kind of going. And I really find a lot of gratitude in that, to be able to do those things with my life. It's not easy. It definitely is not. I was just speaking to Vince prior to the chat. I had one of my worst fears realized. Last week, I was doing a major conference online and I was standing and I had this great setup. I was hitting all the notes right, and it was just clicking. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. You have these moments where you just click. Everything's just flowing. And my left leg decided to collapse on me. So I moved my left foot just a centimeter to the left. And my knee was like, oh my goodness. And I fell. And it was like a bomb went off in my house. All these wires went flying everywhere. And I dropped out of the conference call. And it was 3 seconds. It only lasted for 3 seconds, but I stared into the lens and I was like, oh, and I had to think about what I was going to do in that moment, because I had been thinking about falling during a speech for the months prior to that. I knew it was my worst fear. And I was like, okay, we know it's going to happen, but what are you going to do? And I just remembered I focused really hard on doing one step at a time. So I got the computer set back up, replugged in all the wires, and I was back online in about 2 minutes, and I went with it. And I said, so we talked about embracing failure today, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. And I ended up dancing right after that. I mean, I really put my heart and soul into dancing in front of a camera, and people loved it. They loved that vulnerability. So, and that's the concept of putting your best into everything that you do and letting go of expectations. That really translated in that moment. So it's something that I found really, really great. So it was like competing with myself, but getting rid of that self-doubt, Right. I fell, got over it, had fun with it, laughed and enjoyed and finished off strong. So thank you for saying that, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's one thing too that I notice a lot amongst the students that I get to engage with at the university and either in the mentorship program. A lot of the students have this fear of failure. There's two. One of them is fear of failure, and the other one's the fear of looking stupid or unknowledgeable. Like, oh, what if I'm not an expert in something? Like, then I'm going to look like like an idiot or something. And just that story that you mentioned right now, right? Like you have to. One, just figure it out, do it, go with the punches, go with the flow. But the other one is have to have confidence too. Just make it work, right? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Like you're already in it, you just keep going through. Some of the questions that we're getting so far is like just going back to the university. So we'll stick with the topic in a bit, right? But what made you choose Cal State Long Beach? And then if you would have got your master's anywhere else, I mean, was it about the CSULB that really caught your eye?
Oh, that's a great question. What really caught my eye about Long Beach was San Diego State was my first choice, to be honest. However, they dropped out all their Kines programs right as I was applying. So that really left me in a lurch. And I started searching for specific programs to do what I really wanted at the time. My passion was to coach sports because I wasn't allowed to play. I was excluded from participation. So I really wanted to become a coach. And I wanted a program that could facilitate that growth. Found Long Beach, and there was a coaching master's program for sports. And I was like, oh, the Lord has answered my prayers, and it was great. And so I took a shot and I came to the campus. I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the atmosphere because I needed a place, not just a school where I could express my academic endeavors, but I needed a place to where I could grow culturally, mentally, physically. And I came into the city, I drove down to Huntington, drove back into Long Beach, and I just felt a certain electricity, a vibe, to where I knew that I would probably stay even after I was done with my schooling. And that's what happened to be the case. You know what I'm talking about, Vince. The city is just electric. You came here in 08, I believe, and you've stayed ever since. I came in 14 and I've stayed ever since. There's something about this vibe, this connection. And if that's one thing that I can stress to the alumni or the students who are looking for their path, you got to go someplace that's going to allow you to grow on a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual level. Like, what I'm talking about, because you'll be able to feel it inside of your gut. Your body will be able to tell you what's right for you. And you got to trust that. You got to embrace it. And that's what I did when I came to Long Beach. As soon as I was there and I took my chances, like you said, I figured it out, and let me help some people here that talk about experts and fear of failure. Every expert has failed at one point or another. I have failed at one point or another. I am not a perfect person at all, but we always try to do better, right? That's the philosophical side of you. I can feel it coming out, Vince. I can feel it coming out.
Yeah.
But we always have to keep progressing. You take those steps. You're able to learn your lessons along the way, and it just ends up producing results that you want to see.
Yeah, and it's I think about my upbringing, right? And it wasn't a nice place, and I grew up in the ghetto and all that. But these things, these kind of reality checks, they toughen up your skin, and it allowed me to keep pushing through when things weren't going as well as I should. And that's another question that one of the attendees has brought up. It's just what were some of the things that your parents taught you about adversity? How did they limit you, or a bubble boy type of situation, or just like, go out there and just scrape your face?
Yeah, that's a great question. How my parents helped me deal with adversity. I have a joke, but it's also true. I received the Special Forces training of living with a disability. So I am allowing you to fill in that picture because it was very harsh. They pushed me very hard, but in a way that they knew that the real world wasn't going to be kind. So they had to prepare me for that. So things like falling in the middle of a physical therapy clinic after a really invasive surgery where I lost my ability to walk, hitting the floor at full speed while my legs were atrophied and getting rebuilt from ground zero. It was like I was being burned alive, and I wanted to die in that moment. And I remember looking at my parents, and my eyes were completely covered in water. Just tears everywhere, screaming, wailing in pain. And it was excruciating. And my parents had this stone cold face of just, what are you going to do? Like, I understand it's painful, but you have to make a decision right now to whether you're going to stay there or are you going to bring yourself up out of the pit, because nobody's going to do it for you. And I had to make that choice. And so I literally clawed my fingernails, these fingernails, into the textured wall of my mom's hallway. And I talked about this in the TED talk that you mentioned. And I dug my nails into that textured wall, and every kind of crack and crevice that I could find my way up, I did. And you know what was great about that is every inch I actually gained, my mom's hands would support me. She didn't push me up. She just made sure I wouldn't fall backwards. So every single progress that I made, every single climb that I made was my own. But it's also important to recognize that you still need that support underneath you to make sure that you don't go backwards. And if you do, you have somebody that can catch you to help you move forward. And what I'm really talking about here is like community and love. You know, we don't get here by ourselves. I'm sure, Vince, you have people, I'm sure you can name 2 people off the top of your head right now that helped your life in immeasurable ways to get you to where you're at now. And that's what I'm talking about. We all have those people. Remember those people, give them phone calls, tell them you love them. Like, that's really, really important. Like, look, I butt heads with my mom all the time, okay? But I still call her because she's my mother and I love her and she gave me life. So, you know, we have to take the good with the bad, but it's about community. It's about, you know, buying into yourself and going for it.
Yeah. And it's just these moments of struggle that we try to avoid pain, right? We try to avoid discomfort, but that's when you find yourself. That's when you know what you're made of. That's when you know what you're capable of doing. And you just go back throughout history, just some of the people that achieved the greatest things were under the most stressful times in their lives, you know? And like right now I'm reading 1776, right? We're talking about the creation of our country, right? And you got George Washington and you got all these people. And it's like, you look at our country where they have, there was no textbook or workbook on how to fight the British off, and you just have to figure it out. And that's kind of like how life is, and how what you're talking about too. There's no playbook on this stuff, and sometimes you got to write it as you're going along. And and that resourcefulness and adaptability, that I think is what a lot of people want to hear more about too, and just like, how do you figure it out? So some of the questions that I'm getting right now is okay, so you graduated, you got the kinesiology degree. Okay, then what happened from there?
That's a great question. I'll tell you what happened. I scrapped the whole plan and I started over right as I was graduating. It was the most terrifying time of my life because I had no clue what I was doing, but I knew it was the right thing to do. So I switched it up. I decided to let go of this dream of working in sports as a coach, working in front offices and doing that because it just didn't fit with me. And I realized that I was living a life based on what others told me, and I was allowing that to dictate my actions. And that led me into a very deep, dark spiral to where it was very, very difficult to climb my way out of it. You know, I have a lot of trauma that I've faced in my life that I've had to deal with, confront, and heal. And it's still a learning process. It's still a growing process. I'm not just going to wake up every day and be like, I'm happy every single moment of every single day. That's not realistic. What I look for is peace and fulfillment. And so I remembered that I wanted to commit to that. I had a friend of mine who gave me a shot. And that shot was as simple as him inviting me over to his house. He had a camera and a tripod with a lav mic. He hooked it up to me, hit the record button and said, I want you to tell me what your purpose is, what you want to do, and go. And so we made this little video, started a GoFundMe. That created the personal brand that you see today. And that led me to this chat right now. And it's grown ever since. So I had to make a choice, is what the answering your question is. What happened? I had to make a really big choice. And there was going to be 2 paths. That first one, I could have stayed on the path that I was currently going on. And it would have led me down a path that would eventually have led to me doing things that I didn't want to have happen. So I'll speak very candidly right now. And I'll preface this by saying it's a trigger. It might be a trigger. It's a trigger warning. I actually saw myself putting my head through a noose if I continued to do that, because I wasn't happy. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do with my life, and nobody would want to be around me. And that snapped me out of living my life based on what others told me to do. So I took a chance on this uncertain, unknown future where I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew if I gave it a shot, it would lead me to more of the fulfillment and peace that I'm looking for. That took a long time. It's been 5-6 years since I've started it. It's been a lot of up and downs, lots of failures, lots of evolution, changing directions. You know, this sounds a lot like life because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And now we're here. So, and that's exactly what happened, but I'm so grateful for it.
Oh,
And
man.
there's been lots of fear, but I'm telling you, if you can be comfortable with uncertainty and embrace it and try to do your best every single day, going towards that uncertain future, but you know that it's aligned with your purpose, you're going to be okay. I promise you, you're going to be okay.
Man, there's just so much to unpack. Like, I already know that we only have, maybe half an hour left, but this has to be like a series. There's so much stuff that you just mentioned in there. And I hope that you guys that are listening to this right now or that are going to watch it in the future, pause it, go back, hear it again. There's so many details in there that you have to unwrap. Okay, one of them is just what you talked about, certainty and uncertainty. All right, so we get caught up in wanting certainty, right? Certainty means safety, and which goes back to I want comfort. In your case, right? Most people, 90% want to lean towards that. They want certainty, they want comfort, they want that stuff. The small percentage want to go the other route. Like, you know what? I want variety. I want freedom. Your certainty was, if I stick to this path, I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to hate life, kill myself. It sucks.
Yeah.
That's guaranteed that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Versus this other place where you don't know what's going to happen, but it ain't going to be death. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly,
and life is better than death. So it doesn't matter what's going to happen if you go this route.
Yeah. I would say that, you find happiness within. You have to go within to find what it is, your purpose, your goal. And it doesn't even have to be a goal, but you can find it within if you're comfortable with yourself. And sometimes it's not simple. Okay, if I can provide an example here, I started to do journaling. So I bought a pocket journal like this back in April of 2021, and I played a trick on my mind. So I had originally bought journals that were like twice this size, and these pages were all big and they had to be filled up, and I would always stop short of filling out a journal, right? So I decided to change it up, and I bought a pocket journal, something that could fit in my hand and can fit in my pocket. And I realized that the more I filled up the pages, the more I had to say. So I ended up filling out multiple journals that are pockets like this, and it's like filling up a cup. So if you can go within and find your path, whether it's through reading, journaling, exercise, surfing, it doesn't matter. Like, if it brings you joy and it allows you to have that inner conversation with yourself within a safe space, that's going to be good for you. That is going to be really, really good for you. I feel that I know that I was scared to talk to myself, to be alone with my own thoughts. And then I figured it out. I had to dance with that. I had to dance with it a little bit, We had to get a little moving and grooving, It's going to be all right. And I would play crazy songs like Peaches and Herbs, Shake Your Groove Thing. And it's like an outdated song, goofy movie, like he danced to it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be more like Goofy. I'm going to dance to this song in my own house where no one can see me. I don't give a dang, and it worked. It worked, Dancing.
That's the one where he goes and sees Powerline, or what is it?
Exactly. You get it. Like, you're understanding. Like,
yeah. And I love that movie too.
Yeah, of course. You got to find how to be comfortable with your own thoughts, whether it's in silence, meditation, like I said, reading, writing. Try it all.
Yeah. I do the same thing too. I have a journal as well. Part of it is it's a form of therapy, at least for me.
It is.
The other sense is just keeping a history, right? I mean, we all have those ups and down moments in our lives, and when I go back and reflect on some things that I wrote 5 years ago, and to think the important things that I thought were important then. And I look back, I'm like, that's nothing, right? Or to see the go back and reminisce on my wins, and because sometimes I know for me, like when I feel like I'm in a slump, I have to revert back to, well, when was the last time I had a huge win, or I felt satisfaction, or I felt loved, and reflect on that and just kind of build it up from there, get the momentum going.
That's beautiful, man.
So
may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
was
turn the tables
something?
on me now.
Yeah, what was something that you thought was important 5 years ago? Because you said that you wrote some things that you thought were important that maybe
Yeah.
aren't as important now. So what was
Yeah.
one of them? Would you share?
Well, yeah. Well, 5 years ago, I thought that being single was gonna be the best thing ever. I'm like, I'm never gonna get married. Like, I'm gonna, single life forever. I'm just gonna party all the time. Yeah, and then I met my wife, and my whole life's changed because of that. I mean, we talk about going like 10 out of 10, but then being with my wife, it's off the charts.
Yeah.
Everything's been enhanced. Every single aspect of my life, my faith, my family life, my physical fitness, everything. And I didn't even know that I was capable of some of these things. And that's one of the things I was going to ask you next, is that level of accountability, right? What your friend did was, he's like, let's record it, right? Once it comes out of your own mouth, it becomes your truth.
Mhm.
Okay, so once you record that, now let's post it, put it out there for other people to see. Now you're accountable to yourself, to other people, and two things gonna happen. Either you fail and don't do anything, or you got to step up and rise to that expectation that was now thrust upon you. And so I like that your friend did that, because it was that extra push to get you going.
Yeah.
Look at where everything went.
Yeah, I again, like I said, I believe that community gets us to where we want to be. Like, it's really about the people around us that help us get there. And I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita recently. I don't know if you know that reading, but it also states that inaction is still action. So doing nothing is still doing something, and doing something is also doing nothing. So it's like it combines. Even if you do nothing, it's still a choice. It's still an action. So you have to go do something. It depends on what kind of life you want to lead. You can do it through wisdom, or you can do it through action that brings enlightenment and fulfillment. It's a very good read. I strongly recommend anybody who's on a journey of self-awareness, just spend some time in some spiritual readings. It doesn't matter about religion. I believe wholeheartedly that we can gain information and knowledge from people that have come before us thousands of years ago. And whether you read any types of those texts, you can gain something from them, and they will provide some kind of perspective on your life. That's just my own personal opinion. It's given me a lot of awareness and fulfillment in life. Like I said, it's helped heal some of my trauma. I've been through a lot of abuse. I've been through a lot of self-sabotage, hatred, and it's taken a lot of love, care, time to get through that. So I just want to tell anybody out there who might be looking for something, books, reading, that's a good place to start as well. Wouldn't you agree, Vince?
Yeah. And just one of the things I want to share with you too, Jacob, is that what I like about you is that you're authentic.
Thank
No
you. I
BS,
appreciate
no
that.
fluff. It's like, hey, this is what it is, and your openness to just kind of share, like, man, I had like these crappy moments. That makes it real for the people that are listening. Because so many times when they see someone doing an interview or talking about whatever, we just want to talk about the good stuff. Yeah. Hey, I'm here. This is where I'm at. They don't want to talk about the things, that darkness. And you bringing that up willingly as a point of inspiration, that's what gets people going, because it's authentic, it's real, and they're like, you know what? I have my own demons too, but I see somebody overcoming it. I can overcome it too, and that's the message that I get from you too. And just gotta tell you too, I'm having a lot of fun just talking to you, man. It's such a great conversation. I hope that whoever's watching this, you gotta pause and rewind again. It's just so deeply integrated conversation that we're talking about here. So many different topics. Here's some of the questions I'm getting asked now. It's all right. So graduated, you did the video with your friend. Okay, you said there was a GoFundMe, and this whole journey started. Okay,
Mhm.
then what happened from that point on? How did that turn into Nike, Adidas, how do you get from
How did those
do
brand
this
deals?
video to now, you're
Yeah.
working with these corporations?
Yeah, that's a great question. How did that process come about? Full disclosure, it took 3.5 years for those brand deals to show up. It was consistency in posting Instagram, on social media, posting updates, competing in surfing, getting better at my craft, honing my message. And then it culminated in a conference in LA. It was the Abilities Expo, and Zappos Adaptive had just come on the scene as a big time inclusive fashion brand. And they were in the middle of the conference. And I had gotten there about an hour into it. I could tell everybody was showing up at this center stage at Zappos. Everybody wanted to come there. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play the periphery, and I'm going to come back around towards the end of the day, middle of the day, when not so many people are around. And I'm going to try and place myself in a position to where I can actually communicate with somebody. So what I'm talking about there is having a strategic mindset, but also a logistical mindset. There's a saying, and I think you know what I'm about to go with this, Vince. Dreamers think about strategies, professionals think about logistics. So you have to know how to place yourself in that moment, but you also have to know how to close. So I waited. I came around the backside of the panel or the shop, whatever it's called. And I looked at the shoes, and I made sure that I was dressed to the nines first and foremost, because I had to look good, because if I was going to be a professional at this conference, I had to show up ready to play. And one of the guys approached me, and he's like, so what do you think about these products? And like you said, Vince, I was very authentic. I didn't hold back. And I said, look, I love these designs, but you have issues here, here, and here, and here, and here. And he said, wait a minute, stop talking. He ran and grabbed his notebook, came back, and he took down all these notes. 2 months later, he hit me up for my very first professional photo shoot. And that's how it all started. But I remembered when I was at my first photo shoot to just have fun with it, because I remembered where I've come from. I used to be a cold calling telemarketer. I used to have to do a lot of manual labor. I was a public safety assistant at Fresno State for a long time. So I was up from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. on weekdays, 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. on weekends. So I had to walk the whole dormitory campus during that time. So it was a lot of work for me. But I remembered those moments, and taking a picture for me was a lot easier. So I made sure 2 things: smile a lot and make everybody laugh while I was there. And I did that. And I was joking the whole time. I said, hey guys, guess what? They're like, what? I'm like, we're in a studio in LA taking pictures,
Yeah.
And everybody's like, yeah, it's pretty great, right? I'm like, so great. Take the picture, And
Yeah.
it was a symbiotic relationship, and that kind of created a lot of awesomeness and opportunity where I got to work with UGG, Nike, Adidas, because I was able to create my own content. I got to a point where I could create my own content, be given the goods, and they just said, here's the stuff, go create, we're going to use it. And I said, great. And then it progressed to understanding my value and understanding my worth. So you get to this point where you get this entry level, right? Where you get your foot in the door, but then you start scaling, and now you have to figure out, how are you going to value yourself without being greedy? Because that's really, really important. It's really, really important. And I would say, and I think you know this too, because you work in finance, but you have to know where your goalposts are. And if they move every once in a while, that's okay. But if you can know where your goalposts are and be okay with that, you have power. You have power over your own destiny and your own future.
Wow.
So I read The Psychology of Money recently, and I love what he said. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for how long you want, has much more gratification and freedom than any amount of wealth you could really have. And I took that to heart. So
Yeah.
I make sure that my rates are competitive, so I have my right value, and I'm not greedy. And that's why I'm able to continue to get opportunities. So in May, I was able to fund a trip to New York because I reached out and I said, hey, I'm flying to New York. I will create content for you guys. And do you want to work with me? They're like, yep. And they sent me the contract, and the photo that you see on the industry chat was probably my best work I've ever produced. That was from the New York trip. So
Wow.
yeah, trust yourself, trust your process, know your value, don't be greedy, and know where your goalposts are. That's how you can grow that and scale that.
Man, it's so going back with the students in mind, or the recent alum, or anybody who's watching this, really, there's that expectation again of having a playbook of like, well, this is how it should go. If I do this, then this will happen. Or, well, if these people are saying that this is what they did, then in your situation, I think just like the best things in life, it's like you got to kind of create your own luck. You just got to, one of the things that my mentors have told me was that the best ability is availability. When your number's called, you already know what to do to perform, and you just get in there. They called your number, get in the game now, right? You're already warmed up. You've been warming up the entire time. You're just waiting for that moment to finally jump in there. And so I like how you mentioned you went to this event, right? So you need to put yourself amongst the energy, amongst the places that'll get you to success, and not just be there. That's just step one. The next step is making the connections happen while you're there, while that energy is going. So I like that you said, you saw the booth, kind of circled around, right? Like a lion going after its prey. We just waiting a little bit until that perfect moment to pounce. And then how you said, right when you got to that moment, you knew exactly what you needed to do. And I love that story, because that's what more people should be doing. Just give it a shot, figure it out, right? Just go in there. There's no playbook. Sometimes you got to create it on while you're in that moment. So I love that. The other one that I got from here too is just ask. Just ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. So many times, I don't know if I qualify for that position, or I don't know if I'm going to get accepted to that interview or whatever. And it's like, well, you telling yourself no, let them say no. And even if they do say no, so what? You go up another level, right? There's always someone else you can go above. So that's another perfect example of what you mentioned, just asking, right? I'm going to go to New York. Hey, let's business savviness, and just going back to content creation. Like, well, let me hit up these companies and say, look, I'm going to go on this trip anyways. You can partner up together and make it, we both win-win. Yeah. So let's do it. I'm sure someone like, no, we're good, or maybe next time. But somebody was like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. Yeah. Just keep going, keep asking. There's infinite amounts of opportunity if you see it that way. I like that about you too. And I think this is where we can really are on the same page too. It's just that there's no scarcity mindset between us. Infinite amount of possibility. You zig, then you zag, and you figure it out, you make it work. That is the best.
I love that, Vince. Like, you summed it up so well, and you get it too. Like, you've come from bottom, now we here, just to quote Drake, started at the bottom, now we here, It's great. It's fantastic. I really admire your story as well, which is why I wanted to talk with you, to chat with you today. And let me provide a bit of perspective. Look, I wasn't supposed to be able to walk by the time I was 16. In fact, my life story at the time of my childhood was to work in the back room of Gap, storing clothes and shelves. And that was supposed to be the story of my life. I kid you not. I had docs say that you're not going to be able to walk. You're going to be able to do a lot of different things. So the fact that I'm here at this point, after 16, everything that I've done past that age is all bonus, because I've lessened the expectation. Now, I have high standards for myself and how I perform now, but I'm also not too attached to those expectations, right?
Yeah.
So I try to focus on this term that I've heard in books I've read recently, is selfless service, which is doing for the sake of doing and not having expectation attached to it, because that's how you continue forward as long as you give your best. And I'm going to say that again, selfless service without the expectation of receiving or giving for selfish purposes allows you to have more peace and inner fulfillment. It's really, really important. And I've been a direct recipient of it. I wouldn't tout this to you if I didn't feel like it works. I've experienced it myself firsthand, and it's brought a lot of goodness into my life when the story was supposed to be a story of misery, pain, anger, and sadness. So it's really, I'm very grateful, and I'm super happy to be here again. And thank you for everybody who's given such great questions. I'm so thankful for your time, and it's been an awesome, Vince. Thank you so much.
I know. So so the next one is, all right, so in that content creation, is that how you incorporated kind of your motivational speaking with like brand representation? You kind of mix them together, or is it two separate things?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Yes, I use content creation as a way of exposure. So another thing too is if you want to create content, if you want to expose yourself, there are two pieces of advice that I can give you. Number one, there is no such thing as privacy. So watch what you say and watch how you conduct yourself. Number two, if you're starting out, just be consistent and really hone your message and don't worry about what it looks like. So I used to spend a lot of time on these high quality edits and putting out music and stuff like that. But then I also realized that there's a place for 30-second blips of me just walking on the beach saying some things like blah, 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 you know, and moving on. And people appreciate that as well. There's a time and place for everything. So yes, I used content creation to expose myself. I created the foundation for people to go back and look at my stuff and say, okay, this guy kind of knows what he's doing. He knows how to speak. But I don't give them the whole picture. And then when I show up in person, that's when I really accentuate my personality, my message. And I also just embrace whatever happens in that. So I have fun, I make people laugh, and I make sure that they enjoy it. And I also value your time. I really, really value your time. So in context, time is precious. You do not get it back. You don't get it back in this life. So spend it how you want to. And if you're going to spend it listening to me blabber on, I'm going to make sure that I'm quick, precise, I entertain, you laugh, and you also get something from it. Because I get something from you too. When you laugh, when you clap, when you dance with me, I feel that energy and I want it. I want the energy. Give me the energy. You know, it's good. So I embrace that. I embrace that. That was a great question. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then, Tony Robbins too, he's another guy that, when he does his public speaking and when he puts together his events, he always talks about peak state and being in that high energy, because you get to, your ears open up more, you get to remember, you get involved in the process. And those are things that you mentioned, right? Like it's a give and take with the crowd. So this next one, right? So you mentioned having fun and, keeping things like, just nice and fun and cool. Where's the surfing come into that? That's just a personal hobby of yours, or did somebody connect you with that too? And then, or was it a brand that said, hey, we want you to go surfing, and then you just like, all right, let's just do it? How did that get in?
Surfing was the vehicle of my healing and the acceptance of myself. The water has a very unique property of allowing you to experience this unfathomable power, but you have no control whatsoever. And that heals in a way. I was literally just got into surfing by watching a video at the Islands Burger Joints, the Hawaiian themed place. That's how I really got started. And then additionally, it took one of my best friends who watched me my first day in Southern California, getting trashed by the waves, walking into the waves and walking out as a form of training, getting tossed up on the sand, rolling around, face full, sand sandwich in my mouth, spitting it out with a huge smile on my face, all the rocks in the teeth, and just running back headlong into the water, not giving a damn what happens next. And that human was like, I want to meet this person. And he knocked on my van door that I was changing out of. I open the door and I fall backwards and I'm looking up at him and I'm like, sup, dude? And that's how I learned how to surf. Another human said, I want to meet you. And we bought a board for $100. He took me out for 90 days straight, rain or shine, and walked me out, turned my board around, threw me into waves, came back to get me, took me back out again, threw me into waves until I learned how to do it myself. Now, if that's not selfless service, I don't know what is, and I'm eternally grateful for it. So I took that energy of that person who gave me their time and I tried to put it into actions and services that I wanted to replicate. I say this often is I just want to be the person I see myself as. So the surfing allows me to be happy, very vibrant, heal some things, and it pushes my physical limits, but also my emotional and spiritual limits as well. I've surfed big waves as a competitor in December of last year. I faced 12 to 18 foot waves, which scared the living bejesus out of me, but I did it. And I had to learn something from that. So surfing was really the vehicle for where this all started. And it still plays a huge role in my life as far as the therapeutic and personal fulfillment. I love to compete still, but I really like to travel more, see the waves, experience them, and use it as a vehicle for teaching different ways to heal yourself and your trauma. And that's why I work so much with the surf therapy organizations, and I give my time as much as I can back to the community, because those people gave their time to me to make me into who I am today. So I feel like I need to pay that forward. You know, they've channeled a lot of their energies and time into me, so I want to give that back tenfold.
Right. And that's kind of where the next question was going to lead up to, was that of how are you involved with these charitable organizations and community involvement? And you kind of already alluding to it, right? Somebody out of the kindness of their heart and wanting that human connection, put that love out there, was like, you know what, let me teach this guy how to surf. It might have been nothing to them, but it meant the world to you.
Exactly.
You know, and that level of I always think of charity and contribution as things that fill you up. They don't drain your battery. They give. And it's I mean, so that's the next question that the audience wants to know more about is that it's like, well, the community service that you do, how did you reach out to different types, or are there specific ones that call your heart more than others? I
just show up. That's literally what I do. When I find something that I'm passionate about, I just show up to their events and I try to support any way I can. I will also say this: your small act of kindness, I remember those things. So let's say you gave me an act of kindness. I don't forget it. I really don't, because I remember what it was like to feel isolated and alone. And I've never forgotten that. So the act of kindness that you give to someone else, I guarantee you they will remember it. And your small contribution has significant measurable impact over the long period. And that's the art of compounding. Am I right, Vince? In financial terms, compounding is very powerful. It's the same concept in life. The more you compound, the better it feels, the better you do things. And you're just doing for the sake of doing, because it fills you up with goodness inside. Yeah. Don't do it with the intention of being selfish to want to make yourself feel better. Do it because you know it's right and you know it's good. And it gives you, that will be returned to you tenfold. I guarantee it. But those acts of kindness, they were given to me, so I want to give back as well. But I also remember very, very specific moments in my life that I never forget. I went to Angel City Sports in 2016 for the first time. They were just starting out at that point. I went into an after party thing where there was a kid who was 12 years old at the time. He had cerebral palsy, and he was a lot like me. But we were the only kids there with cerebral palsy, it felt like. So he looked, I remember I came up to him and he looked at me. I'll never forget the eyes that he gave me, where they were like puppy eyes, but they were like so genuine and pure. Like, I see you, you see me.
Yeah.
I love you. Like, don't leave me. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. Even he's 12 years old. He's like, I don't have anybody else in my city or in my town or my home that's like me. And I feel so alone all the time. And he's like, seeing you has given me hope. And I'm like, oh, Jim, you know, it's
That's
hard.
real.
That's very real. And so I don't forget those types of moments. Just like I don't forget somebody who brings me food when I'm starving and I've had a long day, like my best friend. She's like, are you hungry? She's like, what do you want? And I said, Lola. She's like, okay, I'm getting it Postmates for you. Like, that stuff, like that is really powerful stuff. So be a good friend, place some love in your heart, and it will be returned to you tenfold. That's really how I base my work in community service. It's like, it's not always easy. There are times where I'm really tired and I don't want to go, but I still try to. I still try to show up because I know it helps somebody else. And I'm not perfect. There are times where I don't go because I'm like, no, it's just, I gotta take care of myself right now, you know? So it's a really beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing.
Man, I wish we could have more time. We actually, as a matter of fact, we already went past our time.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, everybody.
but it's all right. I think it was worth it. We went into extra innings, but I think it was worth it. Definitely got to keep the conversation going personally. And, you know, if anybody wants to reach out to Jacob and just know more about him, how can they find you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, I'm on all social medias, but Prone to Ride, PRONETORIDE. And I also left a few PDFs for you guys. These are worksheets that I've created to help not only the people that I speak to, but I also wanted to leave you guys with something to take with you. So I would love for you guys to pull it up. These are just some tips and tricks that I've said to myself in the mirror to help me kind of move past things and move forward, and also keep things moving in the right direction. And then the second sheet is more for self-work. You can download this, you can put this up on your wall, you can keep it on your computer, you can fill out what you want, and it's just for you. Like, this is your safe space. This allows you to express what you want to express, find what you want to do. Like, I just wanted to give some tools to help you further along in your journey. And again, thank you all so much for your time. Vince, you're the man, the myth, the legend, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jacob. And same to you, man. I'm just impressed by you, and I know that you have many new adventures to get out there with, and you're blessed, you know, and keep staying authentic. Definitely got to keep in contact with each other. I'm going to send it back to Noemi as she wraps us up. Noemi, I'll send it back to you. Thanks again.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Jacob. What an inspirational story. And for the handouts, if we could go ahead and email them to everyone that attended or signed up to make sure that they have them. But feel free to email us anytime, and we'll be able to get those to you. But thank you again for your time. And thank you everyone for showing up. Please visit our website to learn about future chats like this, or follow us on social media. We thank you for your time.